Welcome to the Quo, a community of challengers, disruptors, and changemakers. I'm your host, Payal Patel. Join me as I dive into stories at the intersection of gender, race, and social and economic issues. This podcast series spotlights individuals from various industries, disciplines, and walks of life who are challenging the status quo. Through interesting and thought-provoking conversations, the Quo aims to elevate the voices and stories of endeavoring change agents in hopes of empowering communities and inspiring meaningful change within our society through education, advocacy, and the power of storytelling. Are you ready? Let's get it. Hey there, cohort. Welcome to episode 13. I can't believe we've already had more than a dozen conversations at this point. I've been learning a lot, and I hope you've been learning as well along the way. And if you've been with us since the very beginning of the launch of the Quo, then you may recall that in the very first episode, I talked about how I wanted to create a space that initially gave a platform and amplification to the most marginalized voices or those that have often been underrepresented in the mainstream media or other major spaces. And I specifically wanted to start with women and women of color, but I also said that men need to eventually become a part of this conversation. And so we are starting that today with our first male guest, someone who is also using his platform to shine a light on those who are often underrepresented in the media. So friends, I'd like to introduce you to Joe Caballero. He is a former U.S. Marine, actor, producer, and CEO of Jungle Boot Pictures, a film production company. He's also a member of Screen Actors Guild, but prior to entering the world of film and production, he actually served in Washington, D.C. on White House duty as a presidential honor guard, taking on notable assignments at the White House, Pentagon, and other high-profile government entities. Shortly after he was honorably discharged, he was introduced to the world of acting in film and television, including small roles in Home Alone 3, Hoodlums, The Dark Knight, and several other shows and films that you may have heard of. Now he's in the business of producing films himself under the umbrella of his company, Jungle Boot Pictures. He's got quite a few interesting projects underway that I can't wait to discuss with him. But perhaps most importantly, I'm looking forward to chatting with him about the ways in which he's leveraging his own experiences and his own work to increase representation in the arts. And so with that, I want to give a warm welcome and hello to Joe. Hey there.
How's it going? What a great intro. Wow.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I just realized that one of the things I forgot to ask you before we started was if I had pronounced your last name correctly. I wanted to make sure I got that right. Did I say it right?
You did. You did.
Okay, good.
Caballero.
Okay, good. Well, thank you so much for being here. It means a lot that you are spending a little bit of time sharing your experience and your background. And, you and I have had a preliminary conversation. We recently met and connected through a mutual friend. Shout out to Jill because she does listen to the Quo. So, and I hear your pup in the background. So he wants to say hello to you. She does. Yeah. So when we talked, you had mentioned to me that the work that you're doing is very much in alignment with some of the light that I'm trying to shed, especially in the mainstream media. And so I want to get to that. But before we do, I found your military background so interesting. And so I wanted to start there because that's sort of like the beginning of your journey. And wanted to ask you what made you want to go into service and how that's shaped the person that you are today. So tell us a little bit about your Marine background.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, going back to high school, a lot of my friends were off going to college. And to me, I had friends who were older than me who were already off going to the military and following that path. For me at the time, college was like going to high school all over again. I didn't want to follow that all over again. And I figured I need to do something real with my life, something that would give me more discipline and more of a broader look on the world. And I thought that serving my country was also an admirable thing to do, an honorable thing to do. So I decided to join the United States Marine Corps infantry. I said, if I'm going to join, I'm going to join the grittiest, most, I want to join a grunt unit, and that's what I did. But because I was really motivated in my beginnings in boot camp as an infantry, and then going to school of infantry, there was a few Marines who came out from Washington, D.C., and they screened about 100 Marines. And I was like one of like 17 to be selected to go to the White House to be a presidential honor guard. You do 2 years security forces and 2 years in the fleet to be combat ready. I did my first 2 years at the White House. But before that ended, I was activated to Operation Desert Shield, which became Desert Storm. I fought there as a machine gunner. And that was an experience in itself, an amazing experience. I'll never, ever give up, want to forget any of that. And then towards the end of my career in the Marine Corps, I started realizing that maybe I want to do something different with my life. I had a great tour in the Marines, a great tour. I'm very proud of that. In fact, it's a lot of the building blocks of my life today, of everything I learned as a young man in the military. So I got out of the Marine Corps, and I actually wanted to pursue a career in criminal justice and law enforcement. I figured since I had the security clearance, I would go for like federal marshals or the bureau or something like that. So that was my tour in the Marines, getting out, going to college and studying criminal justice. But I had a great tour in the Marines, and I had made such great friends, and ups and downs for sure. But that's the life in the military, right? You go where they tell you to go, and you do your job.
Yeah. And what was it like to be working in the White House at the Pentagon, just, having such a close proximity and access to these really notable places in government?
It's intimidating at first when you first get there. I mean, I think I was 19 at the time, and here I am standing in front of.
Wow.
At the time, it was President Reagan who was the president, and then Bush became president. But it was intimidating at first. But you have that discipline. You're a Marine, and you're trained to take on like high pressure jobs, and that was one of them. But after a while, you do it so many times. I mean, it's like you're used to like, "Good morning, Marine," and it's very ceremonial. So it's like, when there's dignitaries, when there's other presidents. In 1990, we went to the Houston for a World Economic Summit, and I was tasked with the job of providing security for like 8 world leaders. And here I am, like a kid from Chicago who, this is amazing. It's an opportunity of a lifetime to be exposed to this kind of type of job, So I had a great tour, and they wanted me to stay in, but I really had my eye on something else. There was a little bit of acting in there because I was in LA my last tour, the end of my tour, and I did get exposed to the Hollywood scene a little bit, and
okay.
it kind of was in the back of my head. So while I was studying criminal justice, I was taking these elective courses like acting 1, basic stuff, and I'll tell you, after my first, 5, 6 acting classes, it just flipped my whole world around. I realized that here's what happens. I'm sitting in a criminal justice class. 4 months ago, I was in the hills of Quantico, Virginia, training combat. And here I am in a class with a bunch of kids, really. And I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing here? Like, this doesn't make sense to me. I couldn't relate. I didn't process everything right away getting out. That's one of the things that you don't get. You don't get the process. You don't get help processing from military high adrenaline job into the civilian world where now you're in a classroom with kids. And it's like really weird to me. But I found out that the acting gave me a release. It was kind of therapy to me, because when I was studying these monologues or doing these theater performances, I didn't think about anything else. That's all I thought about. So it kind of was like an escape for me. And, lo and behold, after a few theater productions and my first TV show, I never looked back. I dumped the criminal justice class. I thought, I'm not going to shot at anymore. I'm not going to put myself. I'm done with that. I'll do that in the movies. I'll pretend. I'll act as a federal marshal or act as a cop. And I've done that. So it kind of worked out. I'm still.
Yeah. Well, first I was going to ask, you answer this question, like how did you go from criminal justice and military to acting? But that makes sense. I'd never thought of it as a release or a form of therapy for you, but that makes a lot of sense. Did a lot of that then also translate over? Did you like do any stunt work that obviously comes with the training experience you've had?
I've done a couple of stunt. There's definitely a career path for stunt performers, and that wasn't my path. But I was lucky enough to be able to do stunt work in my career early on, only because the stunt performer didn't show up as my double, and my double had to fall down a set of stairs It was a
Oh
movie.
no.
It was a movie with Bernie Mac when he was alive, when he first starting out, and I played a mafia assassin, and I was supposed to take a hit and go down the stairs, and my stunt double was supposed to do the same thing, and for me, and he didn't show up, and I didn't want to. It was my first one of my first acting jobs. I didn't want to lose it. I told the stunt coordinator, I'm like, listen, I can do this. I was in the Marines. I can take a fall. I've fallen off tons of stuff. Just tell me what to do. You sure? Yeah, I'll sign a waiver no matter what. And he trained me, and I took a fall down the stairs. It was a great take, and that was my intro to stunts. But that wasn't really I didn't want to do that as a living. I knew that acting was my passion. It's kind of like this. It's like the same adrenaline high that I was getting as a Marine, doing this high adrenaline type stuff. I got the same feeling being on stage in theater. That high, that adrenaline of just
Mhm.
being committed to something that was important, and being on target and being on, right? And other people relying on you to have that back and forth collaboration, just like in the Marine Corps. When you're on a mission and you're with your team, you're relying on each other with hand and arm signals, and just knowing what you're thinking, what each other's thinking. And I found that to be also in the cast when I'm performing. It's like everybody's in tune. I love that, and I just never looked back after that. I did a bunch of theater and jumped right into film and television, and just never stopped. Never looked back.
Never look back. Well, that's the way to go, right? If you're looking back, then you're not doing something that you want to be doing or doing something right. So that's great to hear. What was it like landing your first role? What was that moment like for you when you got like the first call,
Yeah.
like you got something?
Well, the anticipation was definitely there, because when I first, here's kind of interesting thing. When I was getting into the business, I found I could do extra work and be on set of these big movies. And I thought, okay, I want to do that. I got it in. I found out how to do it. But my intention was not to walk up and down a sidewalk with a suitcase up a million times. I knew that was kind of like what you had to do. But as a Marine, fresh out of the Marine Corps, I was really taking it as an opportunity to learn the business. The first day as an extra, all day long, I would just watch the director and see what his job was. The second day I was an extra, I watched the camera department and watched what they do. Fourth day, I'd watch the actors and what the set etiquette. I was trying to figure out what the set etiquette was. I know there was a system to this, and I need to figure it out. And I did that very quickly. The key with an extra is to, be close enough, but stay out of the way. Be available. So I made myself available, but I knew how to work it. I knew how to stay out of the way, but be close enough so the director would be like, hey, after a while, they knew my name. Hey, Joe, I need you in here to do this or do that. And I'm like, no problem. I'd be out of the way, but I'd be close enough to be available. And that
Yeah.
worked out for me. So how I got into SAG, how I got my first speaking movie role. I was hired as a featured extra in a movie called Primal Fear. It was a scene with Richard Gere and Stephen Bauer, who was in Scarface. He played Manolo in Scarface, which I auditioned for his role, but I didn't get it because he's a way bigger star than me. But they put me as a second, right? They say they knew I could shoot pool, and they say, hey, there's a scene which is Richard Gere and Stephen Bauer, and you're a gangster and you're playing pool and they're having a conversation. I'm like, I'll do it. No, of course I'll do it. I did it. So I got in there, and during rehearsals, I was shooting pool. I'd already met Steven. Richard Gere did not walk in the room yet, but when he did, I was still shooting pool. And I swear that day, I hit every trick shot that I possibly could hit, and I played it up like I do it all the time. I was like, yeah, no big deal. Boom, I was hitting these shots, and he asked me, hey, where'd you go to the academy? I'm like, oh, I didn't go to the Billiards Academy. I was in the Marines. He's like, no, where'd you learn how to play pool? I'm like, well, that's all we did when we were bored. You play pool in the barracks when there's nothing to do. And that's how I kind of got good at it. But later on, the assistant director comes up to me and says, hey, listen, the director says you're doing a really good job, and he wants to give you some lines. I'm like, whoa, this is great. So they gave me a contract. They upgraded me to a speaking role. And at the time, Richard Gere and Stephen Bauer patted me on the back. They're like, hey, congratulations, welcome to the big time. I'm like, oh, this is amazing, and it was my first entry to the big time, right?
Yeah.
That was my exposure to something that actors I've followed my whole life. Officer and Gentleman was one of my films as a kid that I watched that inspired me to love the military. That whole Louis Gossett Jr. Richard Gere, relationship. I wanted that. I wanted to get hurt. I wanted to be dug into the ground and all of that. I wanted that life, and
Yeah.
I did. So here I'm facing one of my favorite actors that was in that movie that I was like, I want to be you, and I did it, and here I am in the movie.
Wow.
It was
Wow.
a pretty awesome experience.
Yeah, your trajectory is really impressive in a short amount of time that you were able to transition from your military background into acting, go from theater to to TV and film and land roles that you were really excited to have. That's
Yeah.
awesome to
In
see.
that beginning, I mean, I still worked private security as a job while I was pursuing my acting career. I was doing private security, personal protection type stuff until I landed that movie. I said, okay, now time to move to Chicago. I got a little apartment in Chicago and just went full force. At the time, there was a thing called being multi-listed, having multiple representation, which I learned later that really is not the way to go. But I felt like the more agents, the better. I'll get more work, which is not really the case. Yeah, I just moved full time, and I did the whole acting thing. I was a server at one of the best restaurants in Chicago. Then I ran my own boot camp company, fitness company, and that really made my job flexible, my time flexible for auditioning. I just made myself completely available this whole time I've been in the business. And anybody will tell you if they've been in it like I have, that they've sacrificed a lot of things, a lot of jobs, relationships, opportunities, just to make yourself available for this business. And
Yeah.
I've done that. So now it's time to play a different game at this stage of my career.
No, for sure. And it seems to be the standard rite of passage for people pursuing that line of work, right? Like you always hear about, the actor that was also serving on the side, waiting tables and doing really, odd jobs on the weekends or something like that while they were waiting for auditions to come along and opportunities to take on. So then while were you doing all of that, and looking to pursue your career and advance it, was there a specific goal in mind that you had, a point that you wanted to reach? Was film production the ultimate goal?
No.
How did that trajectory change for you as you
Yeah.
moved
Well,
forward?
after so many years of making yourself available as an actor and being in the Screen Actors Guild, right? You wait for the call. You wait for your agent to call and give you the opportunity, and you put yourself on tape, and then you hope for the best, right? Um, uh, so after a while, you just have to think of other things to create a vehicle for yourself as an actor. And while I was pursuing my acting and doing these odd jobs, I also got introduced in the world of production as a production assistant, like back in the day, working on music videos. And that's how I started really learning hands-on production. I was fortunate enough to be hired as a PA on music videos for R. Kelly and Puff Daddy and Busta Rhymes type. All these artists were coming to Chicago. I got my hands on and got to help out with that. And I really learned a lot then. Then I knew it was possible that, hey, later on when technology changes, then you start learning it's possible, hey, that you can create your own content. You can, as far as me, I've gained enough experience and know enough people and build enough relationships where I feel confident at the time when I first started doing that, I can put something together and put it out to the world, and it would be a marketable thing with production value in the whole nine. Now, fast forward now 30 years later, now the bigger picture is get the content out for the world market, and collaborating with other professionals that can assist you and them getting there. So I've been very fortunate to have the relationships that I have, but it's really hard as a young actor, especially being Latin American, that you get a lot of these smaller under 5-line roles of the bad guy, the small stuff, right? You don't really get a lot of shots at the recurring roles and all that. So, and I don't think that really changes until you find something yourself that you are mature at a certain level in the business where you really feel comfortable about what you're doing and the truth that you're bringing to the project. And an actor told me a long time ago, or not told me, I heard this actor, a prominent actor, say that, what changed for him is that he stopped worrying about if he did it right or wrong. The only thing you could really do once you know your craft well enough is that all you can do really is really just lay your gifts on the table and what you think it would contribute to the project of somebody's vision, and offer that. And then that's it. Let it go on to the next thing. But to harp on something and as a young actor, you're always wondering for agent's going to call you back. I got a call back. The same thing happening. Boom, 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 boom. I learned a long time ago that you just put your best foot forward, trust in your instincts, trust in your truth and what you're doing, put it out there, and then let it go and move on to the next thing. And hopefully that'll come back. And it has. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. You're competing with a lot of people, but fortunately I'm at the level I think where I'm not competing with as many people as I used to when I was first starting out. So
Yeah,
it builds a little confidence at knowing that.
for sure. If I can ask you to speak a little bit more to the challenges that you did face as a Latino man in the industry. Like you mentioned, there were just very few roles to begin with, and they were small parts, and they were stereotyped roles, right? So, how did you overcome some of those challenges of few opportunities and very few chances to show your craft? Because, as you said, you of course you can put out the best work possible and then you let it go, but if you don't have few opportunities to begin with, then you probably had to really maximize the very few chances you did get, I imagine.
You do. I mean, you really have to put yourself out there other than waiting for your agent to give you the sides of a role that you might or might not get in a smaller part. You have to put yourself out there. You have to be involved in the overall community of entertainment, whether doing performance art or diving into theater and showcasing yourself in that way, or self-taping your own monologues or your own scenes, or get on student projects, get yourself on camera, build content for yourself that you can show to an agent or to a casting director that you got the goods, that you may potentially have what they're looking for. But sitting around just waiting and waiting and waiting, you have to create your own opportunities. And now with technology, it's not as difficult as to, collaborate with a writer and say, hey, listen, I really want to just do like a 3-minute scene as a doctor, or a 3-minute scene as a father with a special needs kid, or something with, other than just being the bad guy or the janitor or the typical roles that they're still going. I think it's changing more because of technology. People like myself are creating opportunities for ourselves, like the project I have going on this year. I'm starring in all my films, or an ensemble cast of really interesting characters to tell a story. So, but that also takes a lot of work and a lot of luck, because without financing, you can't do anything. So, um,
Right. Yeah.
that's.
I know. I was just going to say that, while it's so great that you started your own production company and now you are in the seat of providing opportunities to other people, it's hard to probably get there, I would imagine, just because of, like you said, the financing, um, trying to make that leadership opportunity open and available to yourself. Just before we started this, I was telling you that I was just so shocked to learn that the Oscars that just, happened last week, that Ariana DeBose was only the second Latina to ever win an Oscar, and that was 60 years apart from Rita Moreno, who played the same role 60 years ago, and that's it. And I was like, is that real? I started to like try to think of actresses that I know in the past, and I'm like, wait, I can't think of anyone else. So, of course, I looked it up, and there it was. Yep, only two ever, in an acting role. So that says quite a lot about where we still are in 2022 in terms of representation in movies and opportunities. The two opportunities happen to be West Side Story, So it's like that alone tells us, okay, so there's not enough movies being made about,
Yeah.
different cultures and people of all different backgrounds. So where do you kind of see the industry in terms of where it is now and where it needs to be? What needs to happen for us to get to a point where more of those films are being produced, more of those opportunities are
Mhm.
becoming available?
No, I think that there needs to be more content creators and more writers that are Latino or people of color to produce that content. So production companies like myself can take this content and say, hey, okay, this is something that we can do, and this is something I want to support, and I have a list of people I would love to work with, and you diversify your productions, and that's kind of like where it's heading now, is diversifying the production workforce in front and behind the camera. And that's one of the things I'm very proud of being a part of right now. It's called the Chicago Made Film Workforce Training Program. And what we do is we screen 2,000 people, but we're looking for 25 people to put in a cohort, people of color, people from underserved communities who would love an opportunity to work on the production side of film. And potentially one day make a career path for themselves and join the union and really have a real career at it. So I'm the program talent coordinator for this particular program that the City of Chicago Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events and the Chicago Film Office have gotten. Mayor Lightfoot has gotten a fund, a grant to be able to launch this program. We just finished our first cohort, and we got It's amazing. To think that I was able to assist to get these young people the opportunity to work at CineSpace or at SNA to learn grip and electric, or to work at Keslow Camera and really learn about digital utility. And these are young people who really have a shot at having a great career path, because before it wasn't like that. Well, it's not like that now. It's really hard to get in a union. It's really hard to get these jobs. So it's all used to be like within their own circles of, who do we know? Who can we vouch for? It's a really serious job. You have to be completely dedicated and serious. You have to know your stuff inside and out. But to put these young people through a training program, a fast track 8-week training program, under the people who are hiring, other people who are actually working on these bigger shows, to say, hey, I vouch for this person. I train this person. This person's top notch. Let's get her in. Let's get her on a show. Let's get her to work, or him, and that's something that we look forward on taking on to increase the production workforce in Chicago, because the work is coming like crazy. But the question is, can we as Chicago, can we support that workflow? And if we do, we want to diversify that. We want to give everybody a chance to have an awesome career in this business. It's a fun business, but it is a lot of hard work,
Yeah, for sure. So you're saying that you intentionally create a pool of diverse talent to pull from. Okay.
And they all have some experience in film production, whether they graduate from Columbia or they have their own music little production company. They put out music, or they've been on like sets before. They've grabbed the camera, they shot a short film. If they have some kind of knowledge, set deck, if you're a carpenter, if you know how to build houses, you can get in the set deck program and learn how to build sets on Chicago Fire and all these other shows. That's the end game, right? That's the goal. Train under these people and eventually build those relationships and be known that you're passionate, that you have the goods, so they can call on you when it's time, when the work comes. I mean, I think I heard last year, like Chicago during COVID, the revenue was like $500 million in revenue in film production with all the shows that are going on. And now they're predicting double that, $1 billion in revenue in Chicago in film production. The thing is, that's great, because now that's work for everybody. There's a lot of talent in Chicago in front and behind the camera. It's just getting everybody up to speed on that level to be able to take those responsibilities on,
Yeah, for sure.
Especially behind the camera.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it is very interesting to see how far along, Chicago has come in this industry, just because typically people just think LA is where it's at, right? Or New York if you're targeting Broadway theater, but LA for typically film and TV. But Chicago in recent years has had a bit of a boom in terms of attracting projects. I mean, we in the introduction, I mentioned that you were involved in the Dark Knight project, which was obviously filmed here. The recent Batman was also filmed in Chicago, and then the Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, the whole Chicago series, and more are coming this way. So it is really great that we can kind of identify these other cities where there's clearly a lot of talent, and build a pool out of that. Have you seen any other cities kind of mimic this kind of program? Is the project that you're doing pretty unique in that regard?
I say it's unique in the way there's other programs like this, no doubt, where people are mentored, but it's, from what I've seen, my research is very, very basic stuff. This is a walkie-talkie. This is how you call. These are the codes. That's what a tripod looks like. That's what a C-stand looks like. Even the program that we're launching is people who already have a good amount of experience on a certain level to be able to be trained by these union professionals and move further forward quickly. So I think it's unique. I don't think it's ever been done before to be able to fast track. I don't want to say fast track. Nobody gets anything that fast. You have to be able to go in there and say, hey, I can do 8 weeks of training with this person, and then I'm going to stand by and keep this relationship going and still do my own hustle. But hey, I'm available here. Let me check in with you once in a while, and freelance, because these union people do freelance. You get on a list and you freelance and you get hired. But once you do enough hours on set on these union productions, you accumulate these hours and keep a production book, then you can start looking into following a career path like to the Directors Guild of America or these other career paths in camera or whatever. So it's unique in that way where we're really like teaming these people up. It's just not going to a school about filmmaking. It's really working with these professionals who are on the job, literally working on David Fincher's movie or Quentin Tarantino's in town making a movie. But But
Little
it's
scoop.
great to see like a costume designer we have one costume designer who joined the program who right away got working and shadowing some legendary wardrobe costumers. And I'm just so happy for her because now she's on her way to having a real career in the movie industry. It's something she's passionate about. So
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
what's really great to see also is that people within the industry supporting the diversity. They want to see more people of color within the film production, workforce. We don't see a lot of Black director photographies. We don't see a lot of these department heads, people of color. So I think it's time that we introduce, these other talented people who are very well capable of doing the job and sharing their passions with the industry, making things happen.
For sure. No, it definitely is time. I mean, this has been talked about for years, but we are only slowly starting to see the tide turn now, right? For the first time, the Oscars diversified from their hosts to the nominees, but just a year or so ago, it wasn't. And there was a controversy about how all of the nominees were white, and historically that's been the case. And so it is great that people are recognizing and are wanting to be a part of the solution. What was it for you specifically that made you want to start this program? Why was it important for you to see this diversification in the mainstream media?
Well, I didn't start it. I was asked I was hired to be the program talent coordinator because I have this experience in film production and I can mentor these people into what it's like to be on these bigger projects. As far as like I said, set etiquette and how to like really carry yourself on these bigger projects because they're way bigger than an indie movie where you have a smaller crew and just a different vibe. So when I was called by the Chicago Film Office, Kwame Akamoto, who's the president of the Chicago Film Office, I've known for 3 decades, said, "Hey, I got something really special I'd like you to look at." And when I found out what it was, I jumped on it immediately. Why? Because it was a chance for me also to connect again with all these production people I've been connected with in years. And also it was a chance to really make a difference in Chicago and giving young people of color a chance to really put their foot in the door and show their stuff. But it's not for everybody. I was really fortunate to have these 25 people all passionate, but I could tell that, there are people who just kind of test the waters and they're like, that's not for me. I don't want to work, 12 hours a day and bust my butt doing this. I think I want to do something different. So it's really hard to find people who are really, really, truly passionate about what they do. If you're that person, I can pick you out. I'm a good reader of people. I could see where your passion's coming from just because I feel it myself. And we're really lucky to screen these people and they're very successful. They all got to do what they love to do, whether it be in production or in post-production, Periscope, learning post audio and post-production, special visual effects. And they're just shining stars now. And I'm just really happy for them. I'm happy to be a part of it. And we're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep increasing the production force in Chicago with a lot of talented people.
That's really great to hear. Is there a certain project right now that you're working on that's whether it's under your own production umbrella or something that's coming up through the Chicago project you're working on? Anything that's like really exciting that you'd want to share and get people's eyes on?
Yeah, well, no, recently, I mean, because everybody had a lot of productions have to go through the Chicago Film Office to get permitted. So that's where like we, find out what people really need, right? And how we can help. And if they would allow us to have our interns on their sets to shadow or to work or even for hire on other productions. But as far as I'm really happy to have these people ask me, hey, give me your crew list of all your people because we want to like start placing people. That makes me so happy. Like I got somebody in accounting on Chicago Fire, I think, costuming on a bigger movie, PAs scattered throughout productions, all learning, all building relationships. As far as me and my projects, we're set to shoot an action movie in the summer here in Chicago, but something came up that was a great opportunity to shoot a horror movie about 2.5 hours away outside of Chicago. So it's really just a collaboration of creative people and passionate people to make this thing happen. Only because there's a hotel they're about to tear down, a motel from the 70s they're about to tear down with a diner attached to it. And I thought this is a good setting for a movie. So my buddy John Norton, who's a phenomenal writer director, who wrote and directed the last several movies that we did for Hannah, it's on Amazon now. within 2 weeks, he wrote this amazing screenplay. And when I saw this, I'm like, my God, this has commercial success written all over it. Now we got to just do it the right way. So of course, you start pulling when you have such little time to gather your investors and gather money. You have to really just like kind of pull favors and do it low budget and with high production value and do it and try to do it the best you can, which I think we're really confident of doing that with this smaller, picture before the bigger ones come along. But whether it's big or small, it's a collaboration within the crew and the cast and choosing people that you think will fit these roles. And now, because I was a casting director for this horror movie, I have a whole nother insight of, I love this actor. He's great, but man, I can't use him for whatever reason. It's like, that's why I let go a long time ago. Like I said, you just offer the gifts that you have. And if you fit, luck has a lot to do with it. You can be the greatest actor, but if you're too tall or you don't look the part of the vision of the movie, you're not going to get it. And that's the reality of it. So,
Yeah.
So cast yourself in your own stuff.
Yeah, if you're fortunate enough to be able to create that opportunity, right?
Yeah.
I've also heard of blind casting. Have you ever been a part of that kind of process? I know that some productions have used that as a way to try to avoid typecasting and casting someone based on their race or appearance, anything physical. Has that been something that you've ever been a part of?
Blind casting, I've never heard of it.
Oh,
Like
really?
just casting somebody without even meeting
I
them.
was gonna say, I don't know what goes into it, but I read about it a while ago. I think Suits on USA was one of the shows that did that. And Meghan Markle had cited the fact that she landed her role as Rachel Zane because of blind casting. And I didn't know what that entailed. So I was curious if you'd ever been a part of something like that.
No, never been a part of something like just blindly casting somebody. I just can't fathom that because unless as an independent filmmaker, because you have to watch every dime to take a chance on somebody you don't know what they look like or know what they're doing or just based on their resume, I guess. I don't know how blind casting works. I never heard of it, but I want to make sure that casting's so crucial. I want to make sure that I have exactly the right person as best as my ability to fit that vision for the writer, the producer, the director. But blind casting is an interesting thought. It kind of reminds me. That actually reminds me. It brings an idea of creating a new TV show. And I'm not going to say it over the line because somebody will steal it, but it's a really good idea. Blind casting. Wow. Okay.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's like truly blind or if it's just a metaphor for like we're not looking at people's appearances like to the, I don't know, extent of race, ethnicity, I don't physical,
Look into that. It sounds
yeah.
interesting to me. I think
And
it's
I'd be curious to
awesome.
know what you find out as you're doing your industry research. Because like I said, yeah, when I heard that, I was like, oh, that happens. There are projects that do that. And Suits was one of the shows that did that, I guess. And
Wow. I'm going to look into that. I'm really curious now, especially because I got this new idea in my head about this blind casting thought. Want me to share it with you? Would it be safe to share it here or no?
I think so. I mean, you might
It's
be
my
giving.
idea. Nobody steal it. Okay? I'm claiming it right here. It's
We are
the
we're
working
verbally patenting your idea.
yes. The working title is Blind Casting, whatever show. So I'm thinking of this. I'm thinking of creating a show like The Voice, where you can't see the actor, but they do a monologue, and if it's powerful, they turn around and they want to see the rest of the monologue, and they're actually potential producers or casting directors who want to maybe cast somebody in their projects.
Yeah. Honestly, that's where my head went to The Voice because I was like, you could kind of do something where like the casting directors are sitting, facing against the actor and yeah, you might be onto something. We might be onto something. Hey, I'd
We'll
love to help you with that.
partner up and do it. It started right here.
Yes. Love
Yes.
it. This is the inception of, I think, a really great idea.
Right? Even for one season, I think would be fun.
For sure. For sure. Before we wrap up, I do want to ask you, what advice do you have for someone who is looking to get their foot in the door? Is someone who maybe has been trying for a long time and has gotten a lot of rejection along the way, or is battling the issues of having opportunities and representation in the arts, what advice do you have for somebody who wants to like try to get up there?
I get friends who want to dabble in the business and they ask me, "Hey, can you hook me up with your agent?" I'm like, it took me 4 months to even talk to my agent, you know, and a lot of agencies, they have a big roster of actors, and it's like, it's really hard to get in. You really have to like, you just can't get a headshot and submit it to an agency and get represented. It doesn't work that way anymore. You really have to build a resume first and show that you have, because they're investing in you. They're investing their time and their money in the hopes that they're going to introduce you to somebody that may give you a chance at a job, right? So their reputation is online too. So like I know I'm never going to embarrass my agent. When they send me on something, I'm going to put my best quality work forward. I know it's going to have some value, but people who are beginning really have to realize that you just can't just get an agent. You have to really study, get yourself in an acting school, get yourself into a theater production, a community theater, and feel what it's like to flow with your dialogue, feel what it's like to be truthful what you're saying. Going back to casting, I'm watching hundreds of auditions come through, and I could see the dialogue come from their brain right out their mouth, and there's nothing behind it. It's like, wow, like you look great, but there's nothing behind what you're saying other than what I gave you on a page. And I think that people just really have to look into finding truth and depth in what they're doing, putting it out there, and letting people see who might give them a chance, like a agency or a casting director. You don't have to have an agent to get a job. You can go on backstage and audition all you want, but you really should have a body of work to show that you have the goods to be able to take on a project. Because on the other side, there's a lot of money invested, a lot of time invested, a lot of planning invested, there's a lot of moving parts invested. So if you're a beginner, it's going to be transparent that you're not ready for this kind of commitment. So my advice: study, do independent films, do student films, go to school, collaborate, work with other people, and just get salty, get experience under your belt before you try to get an agent, because they're not going to take you. They're not.
Yeah, I think that's sage advice, because I think that oftentimes people probably think like, okay, I have to go get an agent first, like, and that's the first step. But truly building a portfolio that you can,
A lot of mistake that actors make is they list all of their extra work on their resume as if they were working on that show. It's clearly, you did not work on all these shows. You did not work on Chicago PD, Med, and Fire in the same year, because I know for a fact that if you're a working actor and you book a show on Chicago Fire, a speaking role, they won't see you for the next 3 years. You can't be on any other show for the next 3 years. There's some cases that are special if you're a recurring role, but like a day player role, if you have a role, I've been on Chicago Fire twice, and that was a 5-year separation, and I'm just now being seen again for Med and other stuff, right? But I think people have this misconception that they are extras. They see the actors, the A team working, and they want to be in that position right away. It's like, it doesn't work that way. If you're here in Chicago to be a movie star or be like be realistic. It's not going to happen. I'm comfortable. Realistically, I say to myself, I can do 1 or 2, even 3 high profile jobs a year, I'm good to go. I'm realistic about where I'm at. But now it's different, because now I have my own production company, and we're putting out really awesome, content this year and next year. So now it's a different level for me, creating opportunity for myself. But if you're not where I'm at, study, get that content in a reel, and be confident about what you're putting out to the world. Because I don't know, I had somebody send me an audition, and they were in the car lip syncing to a song. I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. I mean, you look great in the picture, but now you're lip syncing the car, like you're in a music video. I'm like, I can't use that in a movie.
Oh
So
no.
be realistic about what you put out there to the world, because the first impressions, I'll spend
Yeah.
3 seconds.
Maybe that's the era of TikTok, right? Like, people are pulling their TikTok reels and going, here you go.
Doesn't work. Not in
Doesn't
that
work
stuff.
that way.
Not
No.
on the stuff that I'm doing anyway.
Yeah.
But
No, and that makes
I wish everybody luck. I just say, be realistic about what you're getting yourself into, because the time will fly. And if you're not realistic about your goals, your near goals, your soon goals, your far away goals, you're just going to be spinning in circles, waiting to something happen. And nothing happens overnight. It takes 20 years to master something, and then you're still learning. So.
Yep, I think that's true of every craft. I mean, I'm certainly, living that example as well. I'm still mastering my craft, and I've been also at it for a long time. So I don't think you're truly, done until you call it quits. And so hopefully people can just keep at it. And your
Don't
story is really
quit.
encouraging. And so hopefully
Don't
those
quit.
listening.
I've always said, don't ever quit. Don't quit. Take a break, but don't quit.
Yeah.
Find your solid building blocks to keep going, and kind of look where you're going. Don't go in this blind, because you're going to waste a lot of money and time. And have a goal, have a plan. And I'm more than open to talk to anybody about plans, or like a path that's realistic. Because there are stepping stones to the business, and if you try to skip it, you're just going to fall right into the river and be washed away with the rest of them, unfortunately.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a very important reminder always that, don't quit, keep at it. And there are clearly a lot of great encouraging stories to look up to. So should I ever consider a career change and shift into acting, now I know what to do. So thanks for that.
Believe in yourself, believe in what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Memorized.
Exactly. And on that note, I want to thank you so much for your time, for imparting some great feedback and advice to those who are looking to both either be a part of the kind of industry that you're in, or help increase representation across the board. So thanks so much for spending some time with us. Really appreciate your.
Please do. Yeah, if you're out there and you want to get into film production, look for the next announcement for Chicago-made film workforce. They're doing a huge campaign right now. So the next cohort will start. If you want a career path in this industry, it's possible. That's what I want to take away with. It is possible for you to do whatever you want in the movie industry. You just got to be realistic about the path that you're taking.
That is a great note. Yeah, truly. I mean, we're seeing the impossible unfold in front of us, and so clearly it is possible. So thanks so much for that.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Yeah, thank you for being here and spending some time with us. And those listening, hopefully you're walking away encouraged and inspired. And we can't wait for the next conversation.
Yeah, check out For Hannah on Amazon. For Hannah, it's a great movie. It won Cannes.
For Hannah, one final plug. Yeah, I got to check it out for myself now. So definitely do that. All right, Quo community, thanks so much for your time, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Hey, it's me again. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, and I really hope you did, please subscribe to the show on your favorite streaming service so that you're notified when new episodes are posted. Also, be sure to follow The Quo on social media at The Quo Media across all platforms for the latest and greatest. Thanks again for joining, supporting, and uplifting the Quo community, or as I like to call it, our Quohort. Catch you next time.